Continuing with our introduction to functions, let's talk about this idea of the notation that we have to use for functions. And I'm sure you've probably seen this, and hopefully you've read the textbook. It gives you this notation right here that tells you y equals f of x. What does this notation mean? Well, people kind of get freaked out sometimes about this kind of notation. And it's really nothing to fear. It's really just an alternate way of expressing y in equation. Right? So for example, in our last example, when we had y was equal to negative 2x plus 3, right? What we're going to be doing right here is we're replacing y with this symbol, f of x. And we would get f of x equals negative 2x plus 3. Instead, all the f of x does is replaces y. Now be sure that you're very careful right here. F is not a variable, and it is not being multiplied by x. It kind of looks like it, and people do get themselves wrapped around that idea at first because they're not used to it. But for our purposes, we write this as f of x. And you might think, well, okay, F stands for function. It could be any other letter. It doesn't have to be F. It could be G, it could be H. As long as we're using a letter, that letter basically represents the name of a rule. All right, so what do we mean by evaluate a function? Evaluating a function is the process by where we substitute in a value for x and find the y value that goes with it. So if I say evaluating a function, that means replace x, or whatever the independent variable is. It could be a different letter too. Replace that independent variable x with a given value. Right? So if I have the function f of x equals 2x plus 7, and I say evaluate f of x at x equals 3, then we're going to find that f of x, we're going to replace x with the number 3, and we write it like that. We evaluate f of x by substituting in 3 anywhere we see x. So if we go into our equation here, we replace x with 3, and then we work out the number that we're going to get. So f of 3 is equal to 2 times 3 plus 7. Well, we know that to be 6 plus 7. So we're going to say that f of 3 is equal to 13 in this function. Well, let's say we were told to evaluate g of negative 3. Well, again, that's a substitution. When we say evaluate g of negative 3, it's the same thing as saying evaluate g at x equals negative 3, right? So even though we're not writing it, we're still thinking to ourselves, okay, let x equal negative 3, and let's work out what y value we would get. Well, okay, g of negative 3 then means everywhere we see x, we're replacing it with the number negative 3. So we're going to square the value negative 3. We're going to add 2 to get the y value right here. This is to say negative 3 squared is 9 plus 2. So g of negative 3 equals 11. Let's try one more. This one looks a little bit more complex, and there's a couple of different things that we can say about how we evaluate a function. But let's try s of t this time, which is 3t squared minus 4t plus 7. Well, in this case, we're replacing an x with the letter t, but the same thing applies right here, right? When we say find s of negative 2, that means that anywhere we see t, we're going to replace it with the number -2 and evaluate the results. So s of -2 means everywhere we see t in the equation, we replace it with -2. We're going to take 3 times the square of -2, square of -2, minus 4 times -2 plus 7. Let's do a little bit of work right here. Of course, we evaluate exponents first. 3 times -2 squared, that's positive 4. Minus 4 times -2. I'm just going to go with the order of operations right here to evaluate this, so bear with me. Let's see, a multiplication comes next. So we can take 3 times 4 to be 12. We take -4 times -2 to be plus 8. Plus 7. Let's add left to right. 12 plus 8 is 20. Plus 7, that's 27. So s of -2 equals 27. So if we said y was equal to s of t, we would come up with the ordered pairs. Let's say if this is t, y right here, we would come up with the ordered pair. -2, 27. All right, this says find the value of s of t when t equals 4. Well, here we go again. This is just another restatement of the same thing that we've been saying all along, right? Replace t with 4, and let's see what happens. So we're actually asked to find s of 4 right here. So we're going to take 3 times 4 squared minus 4 times 4 plus 7. And let's see what we end up with right here. We're taking 3 times 16 minus 4 times 4 plus 7. 3 times 16 is 48. So 48 minus 16 plus 7, working left to right, 48 minus 16 is 32 plus 7. So our result here is that s of 4 is equal to 39. More in the next video.